What is up everyone, Viking Actual here, welcome back to the channel. I want to say a huge thank you. We just reached a bit of a milestone of over 50 subscribers, so really thank you for all the support on that. It is super appreciated. Every subscriber means an awful lot, especially when you are just a small channel. So I wanted to start with a huge thank you for all of that. In terms of this video, we're going to stick with our usual theme of a build video, but we're not going to be doing a specific build video. I'm going to kind of give the reins over to you and give you some, inspiration, get those juices flowing, and we're going to be looking at sets that I think are good, which you maybe want to swap in and out of some of the builds that I've done. You feel that maybe it will work better, or maybe you take two and make your own build entirely. So today we're going to be looking at defensive sets. So I've got 5 defensive sets which I think are the best for PvP. It's my opinion. It differs from other content creators. It may differ from you, but just in my experience, for me, these are the best ones. So we are going to start. We are going to do them in order. So the last one will be, in my opinion, the best option, and this is based on our current update. So patch 47 looking at 48 with the current meta. So to kick us off, at number 5 I have Clever Alchemist. So you could argue it's a bit of an offensive backbar set because of the fact it gives you weapon and spell damage, but what you got to think about is that the weapon and spell damage that it does give you applies to your heals as well. So not only is it a really nice offensive set, giving you loads and loads of weapon and spell damage, more than Mage Courage, but it also then obviously applies that to your back bar, heals, all those sorts of things, so your vigor, your healing soul, all those. Moving away from the 5 piece, looking at the 2, 3 and 4 piece. So the 2 piece and the 3 piece give you health. So if you run this on a back bar, it will give you 2412 health all the time, both on front and back bar. So that is a really nice boost to your health. It may be the difference between you having to run something like Vitality on your red CP, which you can then swap to something like Celerity or Sustained by Suffering. So it's really nice for something like that if you want to save yourself some CP slots and apply them elsewhere. The 4 piece then obviously gives you your weapon and spell damage, which then just even more adds into, on our back bar we are supercharged with our healing, and that all of our stuff is giving us the maximum potential back. And obviously the proc for the 5 piece is something that's actually quite easily attainable. For someone like me, it's also a really good incentive to keep reminding me, make sure you're using your pots, because as you can see, I run around a lot of pots. I get so caught up in the moment, sometimes I forget to actually use a pot, when it would be the difference between life, living or being killed. So I've put this in the 5th slot because there are better ones, but for me, I mean, you can't argue with that much weapon and spell damage. It's nearly 1,000, and obviously with a 20-second cooldown, it means you can nearly keep it as 100% uptime, and it has applications both to your front bar and back bar. So really nice and diverse. So that is our first back bar set. Moving on to our next one. This one is a bit more of a niche one. If you're a Dragon Knight, you will have come across it many times. Previous patches, it was basically you had to run it. It was just a stable of Dragon Knight builds. So for our 4th position, we have Daedric Trickery. I forgot to mention that the previous one is also a craftable set. This one is also a craftable set, so you don't have to go and grind a dungeon. You just have to have the ability to be able to craft it. So it is really nice for that. We won't get into the 5 piece straight away, but the 2, 3 and 4 piece give you 1206 health, 1096 stamina and 1096 magicka. It just means you get those bigger resource pools on your back bar. So for me, who normally runs a stamina build, it means you get the stamina on the front bar and the health. So that's really nice for those, because a lot of my offensive is stamina, so bigger pool all the time is great for that. And obviously more health is always welcome. And then obviously the extra magicka on our back bar works perfectly for, when you've got those burst heals like Healing Soul. Thinking of the Berserker build, my Backbar has obviously got Deep Fissure and all those other things, so it's predominantly Magicka. So it is a really, really nice Backbar defensive set, purely on those 4. Moving on to the 5-piece, when you deal damage, you gain 1 of 5 random major buffs for 21 seconds, and it procs every 9 seconds. So when you think about it, you can have multiple of those buffs up at any one time, and those buffs being Major Expedition, Major Protection, Major Mending, Major Heroism, and Major Vitality. So obviously for 21 seconds, you could have Major Expedition and be running around the map super, super fast. You'll be very hard to find Major Expedition for that long anywhere else. Obviously Major Protection, increasing the damage that you negate by 10%, really, really nice for your survivability. Mending, increasing your healing done. No, correction, healing received, I believe, by 10%. Boosts our heals even more. So really, really nice. Major Heroism arguably can be both defensive and offensive, because it's going to mean that you can proc your ultimate abilities more often. And then Vitality, at the moment we do have that on our Healing Soul, but if you run this, you could then swap that to something else potentially. So that gives you that option as well. I haven't seen it used as much, but I still think it is quite a valid defensive set. Obviously all of the smaller 2, 3, 4 pieces is really, really nice to your overall resource pools, and then the 5-piece giving you those major buffs is just fantastic, because if you can keep major buffs up, it just makes you more survivable. So that's exactly what you need in a Backbar set. So that is position number 4. Number 5. I would be surprised if anyone hasn't heard of this. It is another craftable set, and it is one that I highly, 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 cannot highly recommend it enough for a newer player. So it's Wretched Vitality. We'll very quickly go through the 2, 3, and 4 pieces. So 2 pieces and 3 pieces is Magicka and Stamina Recovery. When you're getting used to the game, getting used to PvP, you want that flexibility and that forgivingness with your resource pools. You do not want to be constantly cutting it to the wire with resources and running out. Because if you're running out of Magicka, you're going to lose your heals, you're going to die. If you're running out of stamina, you could be losing your offensive potential and not be able to do anything, and then you're just basically constantly stuck on the defense. So if you're new to the game and you're trying to get used to stuff, I cannot recommend sustain and high regen and recovery enough. So the 2 and 3 piece, which is active all the time, is amazing. You then, on the Backbar, if you run it, well, you would only run it as a Backbar, I'd recommend. For a 4 piece, you then get weapon and spell damage to boost your heals as well. So there is that nice little boost to your heals. But the main thing you're going to choose this for is its 5 piece. So while in combat, so this is anytime you're in an area where you're fighting NPCs, so this does apply to PvE as well, or you're fighting a player and you've got that combat music, if you apply a major buff or a major debuff to an enemy, it will grant you 260 Magicka and Stamina Recovery for 15 seconds. While in combat, if you apply a minor buff or debuff to a target, that can be yourself, both of these, you then get 130 Stamina and Magicka Recovery for 15 seconds. So overall, that's 390 recovery. And I will argue that most people on their Backbar, which is where this is going to be, will have Vigor. So that's minor resolve on a timer. So that's minor buff for you. And then if you've got anything on the Backbar that procs a major resolve, so any armor set, that's your major. So the minute you're constantly keeping those ticking over, which you should always be doing, you always have an extra 390 Magicka Recovery. If you run something like this, it may mean that you don't have to go for a sustain skill line. You could run something else. It may even mean that you can remove some like CPs, like Sustain by Suffering, because you have that extra sustainability. So this is our slot 3. I think it is a really, really strong, stable set for anyone that is looking to get into PvP, because it will make PvP so much more forgiving. If you run this, you know, if you're really trying to get into it, you could even run it potentially with another defensive set on your front bar, something like Mark of Pariah you've got all the time, just so you can kind of get used to the PvP, the, you know, time to kill, all those sorts of things. So a really, really forgiving set that I 100% recommend to new players, or anyone that is struggling with sustain. So that is our number 3. Now this is a difficult one. I really, really struggled to choose between the top 2, but I have had to nail it down to a decision. So number 2 we have Mark of Pariah. This easily could have been at number 1. I will say that now. It very, very easily could have been at number 1. I think the only reason that it hasn't made number 1 is because of the fact that the meta currently is so heavy on crit damage, and the fact that this one isn't particularly true to being a backbar set. To get the full potential out of it, you need to run it on both bars. So you'd have to sacrifice either a mythic, or you'd have to sacrifice a monster set. And that is the only reason I don't think this is in top at the moment. Personally for me, I don't think it's in top. But we'll go through it because it is a exceptionally good set. So for number 2, Mark of Pariah, it is an overland set. So you'd have to go into Hrothgar, and you collect it from the bosses, or certain pieces from the bosses, others from the public dungeons. So it does require a bit of farming in a PvE zone to get all the pieces for it. It is also all in heavy armor, so it increases your resistances, which is why when I run it, I obviously have to run it both back and front bar, but I tend to use the jewelry pieces just because I don't want to run too much heavy and lose the offensive potential of light and medium armor sets. To get into the actual set itself, the 2-piece is 1206 health, and the 3-piece is 1487 armor. That applies to both front and back bar if you were going to back bar it, but ideally you want to run it both bars, which means you'll get the extra 1487 armor as well. So a huge increase to your armor, and then an increase to your health as well. So a really, really nice tanky set. Then the 5-piece pairs amazing if you're a level 3 vampire and have undeath, and death reducing your damage taken by 15% as you get lower. This works the same, but rather than a percentage decrease, it works on that the lower your health, the more resistance you have. So as your health decreases, your resistances go up to a maximum of 10,206 on top of what you already had as your base. And from what I can tell you now is that even if you're at 100% health, you do still benefit somewhat from the 5-piece. So when I looked earlier, even at 100%, I still get 2,000 resistance from the 5-piece. So it's not like if I'm constantly at high health, constantly managing to upkeep my heal, there is no benefit to this set. You still get an armor increase, which then when paired with the 3 and 4-piece, you already, like at 100% health, are still benefiting 5,000 armor from this set. So even at 100% health, it still makes you more tanky. It just means you get an extra 8,000 resistances as you get lower, making it harder to finish you off. I think for that reason, it is an incredibly strong set at the moment in PvP. I've seen a lot of people using it now. It wasn't as popular, but I think it really has now become popular because people are looking for ways to increase that time to kill, so that they have that time to react, so they have that time to take out the other person, particularly when people are coming along with such high damage. So it was a very difficult decision, but I have put Mark of Pariah in second place, but a very close second place. And then I think it would be no surprise to most people that in first place I have a Rallying Cry. So this armor set you can only get in PvP. You can buy it from vendors in your alliance traders, but you can also get it from the village in the bottom left of the map. I forget its name. No, that was Vicious Death. You can buy it in one of the villages in Cyrodiil, or you can buy it from the traders in your alliance areas. The reason this is in first place is because of how common and how meta critical damage is now. I run around without using this with 3000 crit damage, and it sometimes still feels like it's not enough. So to have this and run around with an extra 1650 critical resistance is super, super helpful, and it really does help keep you alive. Before we get onto the 5-piece, obviously the 2 and 3-piece, which you apply all the time, extra magicka, just increases that magicka pool, but it also does it for the front bar, which is quite nice. So if you are running like a front bar which does feature magicka, that extra resource pool is really nice. And obviously if you yourself are spec'd into critical damage, this negates it, but then obviously increases your crit chance as well. So it means that you can be dealing crit damage while negating everyone else's. So it is a really nice meta build at the moment because of the fact that everyone is procced into critical damage. The 4-piece, which will only apply to your backbar sets, which is mostly your heals, obviously more crit chance, but that's still really, really nice because if your heals are critting, you're getting more out of them. So just as nice as extra damage from crit, extra heals from crit. So 4-piece of critical strike chance. The 5-piece, when you're in a battle spirit area, that is Cyrodiil, that is Battlegrounds, that is Imperial City, anywhere basically that there is PvP, you'll notice a little man holding a sword in your icons at the bottom under buffs. That is Battle Spirit. So anywhere that is active, this will apply. When your healing critically strikes while Battle Spirit is active, you and group members within 12 meters of you gain 1650 crit resistance and 300 weapon and spell damage for 20 seconds. For every group member affected, reduces spell damage and weapon damage by 15, and the critical resistance increased by 83, and it can occur once every 15 seconds. To break that down, it is a good set for grouping, but obviously if you are in a larger group and you run with 12 people, it does reduce its effectiveness. So as a solo player is actually when it is strongest, but it doesn't mean that you have to play it like that. And it has a really good defensive but then also offensive side to it, because obviously the crit resistance is purely defensive, but the weapon and spell damage increase buffs your damage on the offense and your healing on the defense. So it has that real versatility compared to the other backbar sets. And then the fact that it is active for 20 seconds and can proc every 15 seconds means that you can maintain its uptime 100% of the time, which is super, super handy, particularly as it is proccing off of critical strikes. So if you've got your crit chance high, the set itself helps with 2 bars of critical strike chance. If you've got vigor, it constantly procs every second almost for 5 seconds. You're near enough guaranteed it's going to proc every time you hit vigor. So you've always got that. It's always going to be up. And then obviously the fact that it is crit damage, it just fits in with our current meta so perfectly. So there really wasn't another choice when it came to our number 1 backbar set. And that is it for our sets. I hope you find that really, really helpful. I hope it's given you some inspiration that you can, play around with the builds that I've made, maybe even make some of your own. And then obviously, as always, I hope you enjoy the video. Leave a like and subscribe, and I will catch you in the next one. I'm hoping to do one very soon on the offensive sets, so look out for that. But anyway, thank you very much. I'll catch you in the next one.